Hey guys, thank you for all hopping on today on our meeting. Today, our season is well underway. Tournaments have wrapped up. We're into the next chunk of season, which is district play, or if it hasn't started, it's starting real soon. So let's jump into some really good content today. Please make sure that you have your rule book with you. And I like to have a highlighter header with me as well. So go ahead and get that ready for you because we're going to talk about a lot of things today. So let's get started. I start with this every single week just because it helps us frame our mind. It helps us frame our mind in that we always want to be looking for opportunities for improvement. If we think that we've made it, and if we think that we are the best, then that's the first sign that something bad's going to happen. So always be on the lookout for opportunities to improvement. And you do that by, you learn from your experiences, and you do that by learning from each other. And this is one of those as well. So here we go. This week, we are talking first about a drop third strike. So before we get into it, let's of course define what a drop third strike is. So with your rule book that you have, go to page 54. Page 54, and a drop third strike is 841E. And it says a third strike is caught, or let me start at F as well, because that's where it kind of makes more sense to start. After a drop third strike or a fair hit, if the ball held by any fielder touches the batter before the batter touches first base, or any fielder while holding the ball in the fielder's grasp touches the base or touches first base with the ball before the batter runner touches first base. Okay, wow, that's really redundant. It basically boils down to this. In situation, less than 2 outs, and first base is not occupied. If we have a drop third strike, then the batter runner can run to first base. Or if there are 2 outs and then any runners in any situation, it doesn't matter. These are the 2 criteria that we have for drop third strikes. And then what it amounts to is the defense makes a play on the runner, either by tagging him with ball in glove or tagging him with just the baseball, or by having the ball in your possession and stepping on first base before he runs out. So 2 different situations for a drop third strike. Now let's talk about the mechanics of this. Really simple. First thing that you have to do is you have to rule if the batter swung or not. If the batter swings fully all the way through, then it's a no-brainer. You know, we're just going to let everybody know that, hey, he struck. You can either point out there, just signaling your point, but it's pretty obvious. If it's a check swing or a half swing, we're going to have to make this really quickly. And you use your slot hand. You point and you go, that's a swing, okay? Something really demonstrative so that way you got it and everybody knows that you've got a swing there, okay? Next, you need to make a safe sign to signal no catch. So it's arms up and out. And then after that, or while you're doing that, it's also good to verbalize to the players, no catch. That's my go-to phrase. I've also heard it say balls on the ground. That's more words to get out and mumble jumble. So that's why I like to stick to no catch. It's a lot simpler. And then last thing is if there's a tag on the batter runner within the dirt circle, you get to signal the out. That's your call. It's yours. If there's a play on the runner that's further out down the baseline, then that's when we're talking that it's the base umpire's responsibility. So let's take a look at a couple of these real quick while I say goodnight to my daughter. Love you, baby. Awesome. So let's take a look at one of these. This one's going to be very simple, very straightforward, drop third strike. Here we go. Umpire signal no catch there. Just simple, and then let the runner go through. He runs all the way to first base. There's the play there. Let's take a look at this one. Sorry for the blurry video. This one is going to have a half swing and a check swing. So you'll watch my left shoulder. I'm going to point into the batter and say that he swung, and then I'm going to go up to the no catch signal. So here's this play. Let's go. Let's go. One thing I'm going to back it up right about here and notice that in this situation, you as the plate umpire need to get up the foul line because you still have to rule on a possible runner's lane violation. We're not going to get into that right now, but just watch as the plate umpire moves up the first base line just in case. Simple, straightforward. Here's another one, but before I get into this one, let's talk about the situation. So we have runners at first and third. If you can tell far in the distance, there's one out. So we have one out with first base occupied. So we've got to be preparing ourselves. Is this really a drop third strike situation? Well, let's see.
Oh, foul, wasn't it? No?
First base is occupied. First base is occupied. He's out.
Bulldogs get one across on pass ball.
So yes, as the person in the press box says, first base is occupied. He's out, but we have to let the play finish. Watch what happens next.
Runner's out at first. They did advance the runner over.
So this one, the announcers in the booth get this one exactly right. So the best thing in this situation, you know that it's not a drop third strike, which is why the plate umpire comes up with a fist, signaling that the batter runner is out. Now, everything else that happens on this play is legal. You're not going to stop the play just because he's running to first base. There's another rule that says a retired runner, normally running the bases, is not liable for interference. And so that's exactly what is happening here. He's already put out, but he's just running the bases like he normally would. So there is nothing more than here than you're just going to let the play run and call him out. So watch the plate umpire again in this situation and notice that he does not give a safe sign. He does not signal no catch. Instead, he signals an out for the drop third strike. That's why you got to know the situation. Let's watch this one more time.
Oh, foul, wasn't it? No?
There's a fist.
First base is occupied. First base is
Let the play
occupied. He's
finish.
out.
Bulldogs get one across on pass ball.
And then call him out.
He's out.
Runner's out at first.
And then call him out. Really simple
did
and
advance the runner
straightforward.
over second.
This takes pre-pitch knowledge of what your situation really is and knowing whether you're in a drop third strike situation or not. All right, this one, again, sorry for another blurry video, but something different is going to happen in this video, and you see if it would happen. Okay, real quick, let's see if we can catch it one more time, then I'll tell you all the elements of this play. Okay, so on the pitch, the batter swings all the way through the pitch. At first glance, it appears, wow, that went too far. At first glance, it appears that the catcher catches the ball, but in turn, he actually ends up dropping the ball, which requires the late safe signal. The batter, who now technically, by rule, is a batter runner, again, there's a distinction there, he begins walking away from the play, and the catcher is able to catch up to him, and he tags him out. And that's where I point, and I signal the out. But I phrase to you is, what happens if the catcher doesn't tag him in this situation? What happens if the batter continues to run back towards the dugout? Well, we actually have a rule for that. Let's talk about batter runner abandonment. And this is in rule 841I. So it's still on the same page as what we were on, still on page 51 or 54, but it's just down on the very bottom, okay? And let's talk about this. So it says on a drop third strike, the batter runner gives up by entering the bench or dugout area or with 2 outs and does not attempt to reach first base before all infielders leave the diamond at the end of the half inning. So this gives us certain parameters on a batter runner abandonment, and they're pretty wide. I mean, a batter swinging through a pitch, drop third strike, and he starts walking back to the dugout. He can still drop what he's doing and run to first base at any point in time between the batter's box and the minute he steps into the dugout, which is really wild to think about considering some of our fields are huge between the batter's box and the dugout. So don't be too quick to call him out for abandonment. Also, the other one is if there's 2 outs. Remember, anytime there's 2 outs, a drop third strike can happen in any situation. Anytime there's 2 outs, a drop third strike can happen. In this scenario, all the infielders leaving the diamond. That means they've got to cross the foul line. If all of the infielders have crossed the diamond heading to their dugout at the end of the inning, and the batter still has not made an attempt to run to first base, now he's out for abandonment. He's missed his opportunity. So this is a really, sorry, let me go back. This is one that doesn't happen that often, but it's really important that we know this rule, because I know I did on my game Tuesday night 2 weeks ago. I called a batter out for abandonment too early for a drop third strike. I'm going to be honest with you. I called him out as soon as he left the dirt circle. I got challenged on by a buddy of mine. His name's Jacob Bradshaw. And he said, "Hey, Caleb, you didn't do that right." And I said, "Really?" And I looked it up. And you know what? Hey, here's an opportunity for improvement for me even to get this play right. So again, remember, batter runner abandonment. The batter runner on a drop third strike has all the way till he reaches the bench or dugout area, unless there's 2 outs. Then it's the bench or dugout area or all the players leaving the infield. So I bet you didn't know that one. Now let's talk about a different kind of abandonment. This would be for a runner running the bases. And there is a separate rule for this one. It's just over a couple of pages. So take in your rule book, turn over to pages. This is 842, letter P on page 57. And this rule only comes into play when the runner or batter runner has at least touched first base. So let's take the batter, for example. A batter is a batter runner from the moment he stops being a batter. So hits the ball in play, a walk, or a drop third strike. Those are, there are other criteria too, but that's when he becomes a batter runner. He is a batter runner until he reaches first base. And then once he reaches first base, then he is considered just a regular runner. There are the different rules that apply, but that's the distinction on this. So this section for runner abandonment is a different rule than a batter runner, and the criteria is at least after touching first base. And this one says, let's read it together. After at least touching first base, leaves the baseline, obviously abandoning the runner's effort to touch the next base. And then in the note down at the bottom, it talks about how that this is the umpire's judgment, that if the umpire judges the act to be on purpose, like he is deliberately abandoning himself. Now, this could look as simple as a runner stopping, like rounding first base, and a runner stopping and then going to his position in the outfield. If he, for whatever reason, he thinks that he's out and he's not, boom, there's your abandonment there. This could be a situation where he thinks that he's running first base and he thinks that the right fielder makes the diving catch and ends up that he didn't. And he just isn't paying attention as he rounds first base and he starts looping back to head to the third base dugout. As soon as he leaves the baseline and it's obvious that the runner's effort is stopped to continuing to run the bases, this is where we get this. This is an umpire's judgment call. It is an immediate out. You just point at him, that's abandonment, and call him out. It's that simple. I keep emphasizing this as this is an umpire judgment call because when a coach wants to argue this, that is what you can tell to him. This is a judgment call. In my judgment, he obviously abandoned his effort to continue running the bases. Okay. The next video that I have for us is done by a group called Close Call Sports. And if you do not follow Close Call Sports on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, or whatever your platform is, you really are missing out some really awesome content. Now, they do tailor their rule set mostly to Major League Baseball. They secondly tailor their rule set to NCAA baseball, but they oftentimes do include the NFHS rules as well, which is the rule book that we use. And there's just so much great umpire content that you can have. You can indulge in hours worth of videos. So if you don't follow them, head over to Close Call Sports and certainly give them a follow. But I'm going to steal the next minute and 45 seconds of their video. So take a watch.
Allen, and hits one high to center and deep and drifting and making the play in center field. Just on defensively for the Jayhawks. How about that play from Sergio Rivera?
We received this question about abandonment. Watch this play through, see what the runner does, see what the umpire does, and we'll be back to talk about the rule.
Off the strings. And it's going to be a home run for Sam Hunt.
I don't know if
With
Sam...
apologies to Hunt. I didn't call that a home run ball. I thought it was robbed.
I don't know if Sam Hunt knows it's a home run because he went back to the dugout. He didn't ever go around the bases.
And so, have we tagged him out? We have an out registered? I need some clarification.
Notice there's one out on the scoreboard now.
I'm seeing an all department. I don't know. Did he hear was?
Okay, this is the best camera angle we can have to see what everyone did. The second base umpire properly rules and signals clearly it is a home run. The runner doesn't seem to care and peels off. The third base umpire then calls the runner out. Why? The answer is abandonment. There's the definition. OBR 509B2, NC2A has a rule, and FHS, they're all similar. Once you reach first base and you stop running the bases for whatever reason, thinking that there is no further play, once you have given up or abandoned your effort, that's why it's called that, you are out. No tag, no appeal. It is an immediate call once the umpire rules that the runner has made no further attempt to run the bases. You cannot go back and correct that. Therefore, this is the proper ruling, oddly enough. There's your example of abandonment. Visit us online at closecallsports.com, Twitter and Facebook at Close Call Sports. Thanks for the question. We'll see you on the site.
One last thing, Out West Sports does a really great job of getting equipment and stuff. I bought a plate coat from them this year. I have not had the chance to wear it yet, but that's coming. I believe I'm going to get to wear it on Friday because it's going to be cold if it doesn't rain out. So, oh no, I don't want it.
Just on defensive.
We'll see you on the site.
Come on, next one. Next one.
Allen.
God burn it.
And hits one.
No. There we go. All right, changing gears now. So that was abandonment there for runner and great play. And by the way, that was Texas Tech and Kansas. I saw that it was his first home run that he would have been would have gotten credit for, but unfortunately that didn't happen. We're going to change gears now, really, really big, and talk about catcher's obstruction. And there's a lot to this, but before we get into catcher-specific obstruction, we need to understand what the definition of just regular obstruction is. So in your rule book, turn over to page 21. And this is the definition of all obstructions. So let's take a look at it together. Obstruction is an act, intentional or unintentional, physical or verbal. Really 4 important words. By a fielder, any member of the defensive team or its team personnel that hinders a runner or changes the pattern of a play, and it gives several things, or when a catcher or fielder hinders a batter, and it gives even more rules there for us to look up. When obstruction occurs, the ball becomes dead at the end of playing action. So defensive team hinders a runner or changes a play, catcher or fielder hinders a batter, and the penalty is it's a delayed dead ball. And then the umpire has authority to determine which base or bases shall be awarded runners accordingly to the violated rule. And there are a few exceptions to this, but we're not going to get into those right now. So here is the definition of obstruction. This is all obstruction. This is defensive obstruction. It's the same for a runner, or sorry, same for a play being made on a runner, a catcher making a play at the plate. Any type of obstruction all follows these criteria. And it's really important, all obstruction down the bottom, delayed dead ball. That is what it is. You got to call it, signal it, that's obstruction, and then you let all play out. Okay. In this rule specifically, it gave us four different rules to look up when it talks about catcher's obstruction. Okay. So let's go there. So we're going to take each of these individually. So flip over to page 39. I hope you brought your rule book with you because we're using it a bunch and you're getting to highlight some things. So they're kind of about 2/3 of the way down. Article 2, it is a delayed dead ball when, letter B, a catcher or fielder obstructs a batter or runner, or obstructs the ball through the use of detached player equipment. Okay, kind of redundant about what we already talked about, but it's just saying, again, even more so, it is a delayed dead ball. So that's the first instance. The next one it talks about is 811E, and that's on page 48. So flip over to that one. This is a bit big of a one, and I'm not going to read everything, but this is where it really starts getting even more specific. Letter E. The catcher or the criteria says the batter becomes a runner with the right to attempt to score by advancing to first, second, third, and home bases in the listed order when. Okay, so basically the batter becomes a batter runner when the catcher, or any other defensive player obstructs the batter. The coach, really important, or captain of the team, after being informed by the umpire-in-chief of the obstruction, shall indicate whether or not the team elects to decline the obstruction penalty and accept the resulting play. Such election shall be made before the next pitch, before the award of an intentional base on balls, or before infielders leave the diamond, so at the end of an inning. Obstruction of the batter is ignored if the batter runner reaches first base and all other runners advance at least one base. That's really important criteria. Batter runner gets at least first base and all runners get at least one base as well. Okay. If a runner is not attempting to advance on the catcher's obstruction, the runner shall not be entitled to the next base if not forced or advanced because the batter being awarded first. If obstruction is enforced, all of the runners on the play will return to base occupied at time of pitch. The batter is awarded first base if the runner did not reach base. Wow, that's a lot of jargon for the play. Basically saying that on catcher's obstruction, it is called, that's obstruction. Whatever happens to the play, the batter gets to start running the play, whatever happens. If the batter runner and all other runners advance at least one base, it's ignored. If they don't, you get to enforce the penalty. Batter runner gets first base, and any other runner gets to advance one base if forced. Okay, so that's the second one. There's still more to the story. Let's go to 831C on page 52. And by the way, I'm a sticky notes guy in my rule book. That's how I function. So if you need a tool like that, go for it. Page 52. Each runner, other than the batter runner, is awarded one base when, letter C, the runner is attempting to steal or is forced from the base the runner occupied by a batter, runner, or runner who must advance because the catcher or any fielder obstructs the batter, such as stepping on or across home plate or across home, or pushing the batter to reach the pitch or touching the bat. Okay, so again, buried in this are some different situations. So if a runner is stealing on the pitch, he is entitled to one base. If the catcher obstructs the batter, how could the catcher obstruct the batter? Stepping across home plate, like if the pitch is being delivered, say the runner stealing home, steps across home plate to receive the pitch, or if he pushes the batter to reach the pitch. So like if he's trying to reach the pitch and he makes contact with the batter trying to get there, I've never seen that happen, but it's possible. Or if he touches the bat during the swing. Most of the time we see it where the catcher's mitt is out and the batter tips the front edge of his swing. That's one we don't see, but that's one that we hear. That is where this really could come into play. And again, in that instance, you're going to call obstruction, that's obstruction, and you're going to let the play out. If the batter runner advances first base and all other runners advance at least one base, you ignore the obstruction and you go on, unless the coach wants to take the penalty. If he doesn't happen, you have to award the penalty. In this case, a runner advancing, stealing on the pitch gets their base that they're going to, and the batter runner gets first base, and the runners advance if forced. Wow, lots of things on this play that can happen. Let's go to the last one. 832. Is right below that word, right below where we were. We're just continuing on. When a runner is obstructed while advancing or returning to a base, the umpire shall award the obstructed runner a minimum of one base beyond the runner's position or base when the obstruction occurred. The runner shall award the obstructed runner and each runner any additional bases that would nullify the obstruction. This one doesn't really apply to catcher's obstruction specifically, but it is just, again, saying that when that player is, or when that runner is obstructed, you have to at least award them one base. Even if they're going backwards, like back into first base, you have to award them at least one base. And this rule even says you can award more bases to nullify the act. More to come on that topic later, but let's continue talking about catcher's obstruction. So the most common catcher's obstruction that we see is what we briefly talked about. The batter swings at the ball and hits the catcher's mitt before making contact with the baseball. And as I've mentioned already too, this is going to be one that you don't see necessarily. You're going to hear it. and it's going to sound like two sounds. You're going to hear a thunk or just something that it makes it's not a clean hit off the bat. You're going to hear a first sound, and then you're going to hear contact with the ball. You may or may not see a catcher's reaction. You may or may not see the glove fall off, but it's really important that you listen for this one and trust your instincts. If the catcher's way up there, if the ball comes weird off the bat, even though there was a good swing on it, chances are that you have catcher's obstruction. If you hear it, call it. That's obstruction. And this is, again, in Rule 831C. We've already talked about it. So let's just go right to the penalty. Okay, so let's just say that there's no runners on, no outs, no runners on base. You have a batter swings and makes contact with the catcher's mitt. The ball goes to the second baseman. He runs to first base and he grounds out. So as soon as he makes contact with the mitt, you're going to signal that's obstruction. And sorry, the camera's making it really weird. That's obstruction. I just point straight out and my hand's kind of down, pointing to the home plate area. And you're just going to hold it there, let everybody know. It's like football. When you throw your flag on the play, you're throwing your flag, but you're still letting everything else happen. You're going to call it, that's obstruction, and let the play out. He runs to first base and he is thrown out. Now we get to enforce the penalty. Time. Wait a second, let everybody look at you. Reiterate, that's obstruction, and then you award first base. You, first base. Okay, real simple. Do I have another thing? Yeah. Real simple in this scenario, okay? What about other runners? So let's make this situation a little bit more complicated. Let's say that there's a runner at first base and the batter runner. Same exact situation. The batter swings and tips the catcher's mitt, hits the ball, and it's going to second base for a possible double play. You're going to signal that's obstruction, just as before, and then let the play out. The second base turns and flips to second base. Boom, he is now automatically out at second. Therefore, the rule is not met, which means the batter and all runners advance at least one base. So we're going to kill it right then. Time. Let everybody look at you. It may take a second on this one. Time. Reiterate, that's obstruction. And you award the batter runner first. You, first base. And because he's forced, you, second base. You move your runners that way. Again, and this is because he's forced. All right? Let's make it a different situation, but similar thing. So batter at the plate, and then a runner at second base only. So R2 only. Same exact scenario. Batter swings, tips the catcher's mitt. Ball goes to second baseman. It's going to be a ground out. You're going to throw your flag. You're going to call that's obstruction. And you're going to let the play out. Second baseman grabs the baseball and he throws it to first base and gets the batter runner out. Okay? The rule is not met. Time. That's obstruction. You rule the batter runner to first base. But what about the runner at second base? He was not forced. So he has to go back to where he was at the time of pitch. Okay, let's do one more of the scenario and then we'll move on to a not so common one that's going to make our head spin. So same setup, R2 only, batter at the plate, batter swings, tips the catcher's mitt, the ball, let me back up. Runner at second base, pitcher comes set. The runner starts to steal third. He's moving on the pitch. The throw comes in, batter tips the catcher's glove, ball goes to the second baseman, a ground out. Okay, he picks the baseball up, throws it to first base. Time, our criteria was not met for ignoring the obstruction. Time, you're going to say, reiterate, that's obstruction. And then you're going to award batter runner first base. And because R2 was stealing on the pitch, he gets third base as well. Even though he's not forced, but he gets to move up to third base as well. Okay, so let's talk about the coach's option for a second. And this really comes into play when you have multiple runners, potentially a runner at third base. And this is very common in a tag situation, okay? So let's say that it's a tie ball game, the go-ahead runner's on third base, and there's one out on the play, all right? The batter runner tips the catcher's mitt, hits a pop fly to the left fielder. The left fielder camps underneath it. Again, you're going to call that's obstruction. The batter runner is going to catch the baseball. All right. and you still got to let the play finish. Still got to let the play finish. Left fielder catch the baseball. The runner from third is going to tag, and there's a play at the plate, and you rule him safe at the plate. So the home team is all happy. Yay, we scored. We just got the go-ahead run in. But you have to enforce the penalty first. So you got to call time. And you need to set the record straight. Call the catcher's obstruction, award the batter runner first, and because he's not forced and because he was not moving with the pitch, you've got to put the runner back on third base. So you take a run off the board. And of course, this is going to make the coach really upset. But what do you mean? Oh, he's probably going to come out and argue with him. And you may want to help coerce him and just say, you realize you have the option on this play. Do you want the penalty or do you want the result of the play? And I guarantee you're going to have to walk your coach through this. Penalty means that I put the runner back on third base and your batter runner's at first base with one out still because that's how it happened. Or you can take the result of the play, which is the run scores, you're now winning, but there's two outs. And then the coach gets to tell you which option that he wants. This is going to take some really great effective communication skills for you to do, but it's really important that you slow down and explain to the coach when he comes out and asks, okay? And again, as an umpire, it is your job to not assume what the best scenario is for a team. Who knows? He may want the penalty. He may want batter runner on first base, and the next guy can come up and hit a 3-run home run. Who knows? You've got to enforce the rule. Enforcing the rule means calling time, enforcing the batter's obstruction, moving him to first base, putting the runner back on third, and then the next thing happens. The coach gets to have the option if he would so choose, if he wants to come out and talk to you about it, okay? This is a really crucial part of this rule that we need to make sure that we get right because this scenario does happen and we just need to make sure we get it right. All right, let's talk about a not so common play. And this was actually brought up by our TASO rules guy. He sent out an email to all of us on the 3rd, and it's got a really great video and some awesome discussion for us. And it still falls in line of catcher's obstruction. All right, so here's the situation. You've got a batter and you got R3, and he is going to be stealing on the pitch. So let's take a watch.
One ball and 2 strikes. Here comes the runner, stealing home. He'll be safe. Zach Davis steals home and ties this thing up here in the 9th, and Humphries moves over to third.
That is the most unbelievable thing I think I have seen. With 2 strikes and 2 outs, Zach Davis just takes the bag, just steals home in a straight steal. That is unbelievable.
And
Okay, I'm going to back this up, and I'm going to have you watch a couple of things real quick before we talk about it. So for starters, we know that there's a runner at third base because he's about to steal home. We also know that there's a runner at second base. The pitcher is in the windup. These are all critical elements to this play, okay? And I know it's a college game. We can't think of this through college rules. We got to think of this through high school rules, through our federation rules about what we just learned about catcher's obstruction, okay? So the pitch starts.
ball and 2 strikes.
Boom, freeze it here. The runner, sorry, I'm pointing it to my own screen. R2 begins stealing on the pitch. That's a critical piece of information. If you're in a 2-umpire situation, your base umpire is going to be in C. Can the base umpire see if that runner is leaving early or stealing on the pitch at second base? Probably not. Okay, so plate umpire, you've got to be aware and see the things in front of you as well. You can see that. That's not what you're looking for, but in peripheral vision, you should be able to be, oh, wow, he's moving on the pitch as well. Okay, next piece of critical
Here comes the runner, stealing.
Okay, the catcher leaves his catcher stance while the pitcher is pitching a legal pitch.
Home, he'll be safe. Zach Davis.
And then we have a runner completing the play at the plate and slides into safely, okay? So let's talk. Come on, see if I can get out of this video. There we go. So let's talk about this play, this catcher's obstruction. It's not so common again. Two of these rule sets apply here, 8.1.1e on page 48 and 8.3.1c, which is on page 52, apply. So again, we're looking at federation rules, high school rules in this. So the first thing that we know is that the batter is obstructed by the catcher. How is the batter obstructed by the catcher? Because he gets out of his stance and steps across home plate. The catcher does not give the batter the ability or the opportunity to complete a swing. It doesn't matter that the batter didn't swing or didn't attempt to swing at all. That doesn't matter. It matters the fact that the catcher stepped out there and didn't give the batter the opportunity. Okay, so we have obstruction in this scenario. You're going to call obstruction and you're going to let everything else play out until the play stops. All right. In this situation, the slide comes into home and you're all going to be happy with it because he was advancing to home. All right. And the play happens. Okay. So now the batter runner, because he was obstructed, he is going to be awarded first base. R3, because he's stealing on the pitch, gets awarded home. So the run scores at home and batter runner gets first base. And then this is where R2 comes into play. Any other runner who was stealing with the pitch also gets their base that he's going to, even though he wasn't forced. R2, because he was stealing on the pitch, gets awarded third base as well. And lastly, any other runner who's forced because of the batter runner getting first base also advances. Okay, so let's say that there were the bases loaded in this scenario. All right, R3 steals home, R2 steals third, but R1 stays put. Batter runner would get awarded first. R3 would get awarded home because he's stealing on the pitch. R2 would get awarded third because he's stealing on the pitch. R1 would get awarded second because he's forced to go. Okay, so this is a really complicated play that happens a lot, or sorry, doesn't happen a lot, but a lot happens all at once. It's just really important that in high school rules, we have to have the catcher staying in his position to catch the pitch. The batter must have the complete opportunity to strike at the pitch should he choose. It is either his to swing or to not swing, but he has to have that opportunity. Okay, now this is for fun. And by the way, I'm just going to be 3 for 3 on Texas Tech videos. I didn't do this on purpose, but apparently Texas Tech is really good at stealing home. So this happened last season between Texas and Texas Tech. It's just a lot of fun. Scenario, bottom of the 10th inning, tie ball game, runner at third base.
When pushing across from left to right. He steals the bag.
Wow.
He steals home.
Kurt Wilson, while Nixon was on the mound looking down, has stolen home to win the ball game. Nixon never looked up and never even delivered the ball to Ardoin at home plate. How
I
about
actually
that?
watched this game live. This is one of the few TV games I
Nixon, as he would
watched.
stretch, would really get in a real definitive pause and look down at his feet. And Wilson just takes
Look at the
off.
catcher,
Nixon
though.
never sees.
So let's talk about this one real fast, and then we'll go to the next slide. But
Definitive
in this
pause
scenario,
and
if we're
look
talking
down at
about
his
high
feet.
school rules, even though the pitcher hasn't delivered yet, look at the catcher. He's out of his
And
stance.
Wilson just
He's
takes.
coming up. If the pitcher starts to deliver the pitch, guess what we have? We have catcher's obstruction. He's out of his position. The pitcher doesn't pitch in this scenario, so there's a little more to it. So final thoughts on this. So if the pitcher notices that the runner is stealing home, what happens if he steps off the rubber? Well, if he steps off the rubber, the pitcher is no longer acting as a pitcher, but instead is acting as a fielder. Then he stepped off the rubber. He can throw home. It's just like he's making a play on a runner. That is totally legal. He throws home. The catcher can come out of his stance, and he can come out and field just like any other play at the plate. If the batter is standing there, and if the batter is in the way in this situation, guess what we have? We have interference on the batter, and that's a whole nother rule for another meeting. And we won't get into that today. But it's really important to know, is the pitcher making a pitch, or is the pitcher making a pickoff attempt, or is the pitcher stepped off and he's now a fielder? Those are several criteria things to do. Basically, what I'm getting at is when you notice that a runner is stealing home, your heart is going to skip about 4 beats and you're going to start racing your mind. You've got to find a way to slow yourself down. Talk yourself through. Is this a pitch? Did the pitch get completed? What was the pitch? Was it a ball or was it a strike? You've got to catalog that because you're probably not going to get to make that call in the moment. Catcher catches the ball and then do the best you can to get a look at the play at the plate. It's not going to be a very good look, but you still can do your best. All right. Then as I say here with a wink face, good luck. This is a hard play to do. And typically when this happens, it's a very high intensity moment. So we've got to go through our checkpoints. Was it a pitch? Did the catcher receive the pitch? Did the batter have the opportunity to swing or not? Do we have catcher's obstruction? Do we have a batter that's in the way of the play? Do we have batter interference in this scenario? By the way, penalty for batter interference in this scenario is the runner stealing third to home is out. Unless there's 2 outs, then the batter is out and you go to the next inning. So that's another one that we'll talk about another day. Just slow down, go through these processes in your head and then make the call, okay? And if you need help, make a call and then go talk it through your partner. You remember, you are a team on the field. You are a team on the field. Use each other as good assets, okay? The last topic is going to be real quick, and I love that I'm getting lots of game reports. One thing that has been kind of consistent around this time of year is unruly fans. Fans being obnoxious and just really, really bad. Oh, I have something in the chat here. Thanks, Rodney. The first thing that I want to say is unruly fans, you've got to get your administrator involved. If you start thinking about it and you start thinking about what the fan is saying instead of what's going on in the game, chances are you've reached the moment that you need to get an administrator involved, okay? If it distracts you from the game and it's continuing to get your brain power, see if you can overcome it. But if not, then it's typically time to get your administrator involved, okay? Continued nagging or being obnoxious. There are some fans that are out there that are just having a good old time. I don't want to ever think that I'm out there saying that fans or players or coaches or anything can't have fun. But there's a difference between, kind of, being a little riled up and being a little obnoxious, but in good fun in the game, and then continued nagging, being obnoxious just for the fact of getting on you as an umpire and, casting down your character, okay? Also, prolonged and over-the-top behaviors. If something happened in the first inning and you're in the 4th inning and said fan is still just going at it about the same thing over and over and over again, that's a great opportunity for you to get your administrator involved. And then this last one, I think it's the last, yeah, this last one, personal attacks on you, your character, your gender, your race, whatever you want to fill in that thing, anything that is specific to you, that is an immediate action. That is something that we are not going to tolerate. Personal attacks on you, okay? I had a college assigner email us today and talked about coaches' ejections. And a coach is allowed to say something like, that's terrible. Just generally speaking, that's terrible. But the moment that they put the word Y-O-U in front of it, it's now personal. You're terrible. That totally changes the scenario. Okay, same thing with fans. If they're just generally speaking, worst call blue, something like that, okay, that's not personal. But if they make comments or something that are personal to you, something very specific about you, that is when you need to get your administrator involved and just call time and get them, and they are going to be helpful, okay? I kind of look at getting your administrator involved in a couple different levels. And this really bases on the severity of whatever situation is going on. My first level 1 is just really make admin aware of the problem and hopefully they'll address it. If I'm using this tactic, it's something minor, maybe something that's prolonged, maybe something that I'm just kind of getting the sense that's going to brew over something. And I typically do this in between innings. catcher will, the strikeout will be, catcher will roll the ball to the pitcher's mound, and I'll immediately turn around and I'll go just talk to the admin in between innings. Says, hey, want to make you aware of the situation. And if you say that, they typically will address it in their own unique way. Okay. But that's just kind of the first level. For some of the minor infractions or things that are kind of brewing, if it's something that's a bit more, the second one I like to say is make admin address the situation. And in this scenario, you're going to stop the game immediately. There's a play at the plate and a fan makes a personal derogatory comment about you, again, a personal attack on you. I'm going to stop the game immediately, find my administrator, and I'm going to make him address the situation. The comments is going to be like something like this. You need to have a conversation with him that we are not going to tolerate that here. Or in the, that is unsporting and that is not in the spirit of the game. Something that you can specifically say, this needs to be handled. And typically, again, the admin is going to handle it in their own way. Sometimes they talk to the fans. Sometimes they go ahead and remove the fan on their own. That's my favorite kind of administrator, but still it's kind of up to them, however they want to handle it. And then in the most severe cases, and yes, this does happen from time to time, in the most severe cases, you stop the game immediately. And then you address the administrator and you say, this problem needs to be removed. This person needs to be out of this game. I do not feel safe, whatever the situation is. And then you hold true to that. I am not going to start the game again until this situation is resolved. And hold your ground. That is within your right. Now, I'm going to urge you, you as the umpire, you never address the fan specifically. Even if they're the one that's right on the fence line or right close to you where the administrator is talking to you, I sure hope that's not your scenario. But no matter what, you as the umpire never, ever address the fans individually. You always let the administrator do that. Stop the game until the administrator takes care of the problem. If the administrator doesn't take care of the problem, even though you demand it, well, hold your ground until it's obvious that they are not going to do what you've asked. Continue the game, and then you get to file a incident report with the UIL, because that is part of the administrator's job. And if they fail to do that, then that's another problem. And we can't fix that on the field, but we can always fix that afterwards with the report. And there's certain things that follow along with that. Okay. So there are different ways that you can handle this. Again, I'm not saying that for a fan calling you a name, immediately go to level 3 and stop the game. I think that's unfair. I think that's not in the spirit of games in baseball. Is it unsporting? Yeah, it is. But I mean, we're officials. We're supposed to be able to take some things. But what I am saying is that for every severity of a problem, you have some ways that you can help the administrator help you. Make them aware of a minor problem, and they'll probably say something or go sit next to them. If it's a little bit major of a problem, make the administrator address it right there and then get back to calling the game. And then if it's even a worse scenario, stop the game. Do not start it again until the administrator takes care of the situation. The fan is removed or whatever it is. But again, save that last step for truly the most unruly situations that you can, because that's just what's in the best spirit of the game. I got asked, what are we going to do if continued fans and one team is just continue to be unsporting? Well, here's your criteria. Just you go in and you do your job, you hope for the best, and then you use your game administrator. Is it the best system? No, but all in all, we're there to call what's going on the field. We can't control what's in the stands behind us. And then when it's bad, we have a game administrator to help us out with it. So I was really long-winded today, but I just felt that there were a lot of things that came up this week. Every single situation that I talked to about today was something that happened this past week in the last 7 days of Waco high school baseball games. And it's just really important for us to talk about. So I'm going to be quiet for a little bit. Do you have any questions about anything that you've heard so far in this presentation, or any questions that you've had come up this week? This is the time. We got about 8 minutes that we can take some questions.
I got one quick one.
Go for it, Hal.
Running back to the, the runner abandonment.
Okay.
Pretty much you got base runners established, typically a first and third bases loaded, probably more likely. And this goes back, I'm just asking if anybody's been getting any feedback on, it's kind of like reinventing the wheel, you know, the old skunk in the outfield when they're trying to beat the pitcher. I've been getting like bits and piece reports, and it seems to be a trend that's operating in the Dallas-Fort Worth schools. I don't know if it's just one or more, but basically they have our R1 and R3, and R1 starts running directly at the pitcher. Obviously, you know, trying to probably induce a balk. That's the first thing that comes to my mind, but they're trying to bait the pitcher and trying to get that R3 to score by chasing their, but so R1 is running directly at the pitcher.
Yeah.
And he's not attempting. So I know that what my colleagues, you know, up in the Dallas area, they says, yeah, their directive from leadership, you know, like the assigner and the chapter president, they're saying, we're going to nip this one in the bud. Universally, we as a chapter, we see this, we just call the runner out for abandonment right then and there.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if any of our people down here, I know I've yet to see any of that nature, so it must be a small little thing beginning up in the Dallas area. I think you are.
The skunk in the outfield play that I've seen is really when you have a skunk in the outfield. This guy starts taking his lead and ends right here. Okay. Yep. And then once the pitcher makes a move, he begins retreating backwards to the outfield. And remember, this one goes in lots of different directions, that the runner doesn't establish his baseline until a play is being made on him. A play is not being made on him until a player can actually like physically tag the runner. So really in this scenario, we've got nothing. He's not abandoning his, I don't think in this scenario he's abandoning the base, because he's going the opposite direction of the dugout. I can see why this one that they're calling going right at the pitcher, that they're wanting to call that for abandonment. I could see that because, well, he's going the wrong direction. I mean, like he's not even going even remotely close to second base. He's going the opposite direction. You know, I could see that. But skunk in the outfield, the best thing to do as an umpire is just to wait and watch what happens. Don't call anything, just wait. Pitcher, if he gets back on the rubber and pitches the next pitch, well, he just stands there and goes for it. But yeah, this is a really funky play that can get chaotic really fast. So I have not seen a skunk in the outfield play or the one that you're talking about, but I kind of hope it happens. That would be fun.
Yeah. So again, it seems that it's a light trend. I mean, I'm getting from 3 different sources, 3 separate schools, 3 separate games. R1, you typically got R1 and 3. R1 just starts running, not trotting or leading off, just starts running directly at the pitcher for whatever reason. I don't, you know. So again, collectively as a chapter up there, they just said we witnessed that. We're justified because their demonstrated intent is not to achieve second base.
That's right. That's a good point. Yep.
You know, now we cannot make assumptions. Again, that's where I go, well, the first thing I'm thinking, oh, they're trying to induce a balk. I'll really nail them. Well, you can't, because we don't know what their intent was, other than demonstrated intent was abandonment. So you can get that one.
Yep. Good question. I'd love to see it in a game. Anybody else got anything?
Yeah, we got the squeeze plays. Plate umpires, you know, if you use the proper stance, positioning, you know, to receive the pitch, R3's coming in, you're going to see that in your periphery.
Yeah.
And hopefully you've got enough game of situational awareness, what's going on. You can pretty much anticipate this is potential. You got a jackrabbit at third base. He's probably going to try to pull a squeeze here.
Mm-hmm.
And then always remember, you know, first thing we got to do, folks, we got to rule on the pitch. If the pitcher follows through, so keep your eyes locked on the feet. You know, if you're a plate umpire and that situation arises, I would key on, you know, waist and below. Just a recommendation. And then
you got to
there's,
make sure that the catcher stays in his stance, stays and lets the batter have the opportunity to swing or not,
yeah, and
or else we have obstruction.
stay calm, stay steady, take a deep breath, because here it comes. Because
Yep.
I tell you what, there's possibly 7 things that can possibly go wrong. Okay, you got to rule on the pitch. There might be obstruction by the catcher, might be batter interference. You know, there could be all kinds of, could be a foul ball, there could be all kinds of stuff. So let everything play out, and your instincts will kick in. You'll know how to rule.
Yeah. Got a question in the chat. It says, how is it ruled if a batter makes contact with a full foot outside of the box? Thanks for Ethan for the question. So this is a batter swinging and he makes contact with the baseball and his entire foot is out of the batter's box. It is an immediate dead ball. You're going to call time, and you're probably going to call time about 7 or 8 or 12 other times as well, because no one's going to be paying attention. You just call time, and then you call a batter out, and then you put the runners at the bases where they were at the time of pitch. Even if they're stealing, they got to go back and because it's time of pitch. Okay, let's go a little one step further. Let's say that the batter swings in a weird way on a pitch that's out of the box, but he makes contact with the plate as he is swinging and hits the ball. Even if his foot is not completely out of the batter's box, if his foot touches the plate, that is the violation. So same thing, you're going to call time, and probably call time about 12 other times because no one's going to be watching you. And then you're going to rule the batter out, and then you're going to put everybody else back. This one happens on the being the foot on the plate, typically happens on a bunt scenario. And I'm just going to be honest, as a plate umpire, sometimes you miss this one. And if you miss it, great, it happens. But keep everything in front of you. Don't close your eyes. Don't close down your views too much of what you're looking at. Watch his feet, watch the contact. If his foot touches the base while he's bunting, the ball is dead immediately. You just got to call time and keep calling time until people look at you. Okay? Great question, Ethan.
Yeah, but just remember, there's a
I
difference.
had a couple of times this year and been right. Does the ball have to be fair? No, the ball does not have to be fair. It doesn't matter. It's just a matter of that he makes contact with the baseball. Can the base umpire make this call if he sees that? I'm going to go with no in this scenario. Just the way that the dirt is and the parallaxed angle, like where the plate umpire is looking down at the play. Okay, so here's batter box. The plate umpire is looking down at the play. You really can definitively look at, but the base umpire, because of his distance, the parallaxed angle is going to be a lot shallower. And so your view of what could be in the box versus out of the box is going to be very severely faulted. I mean, in the rare occasion of a bunt and you're inside and it's very obvious that his foot is on the base, make a mental note of it. And that way, if your partner does ever come ask you for help on it, can you offer him that information? Absolutely, you can. But no, generally speaking, the base umpire would not want to make that call. I got another question. Hidden ball trick. We're over our time. I'll do this real quick. Hidden ball trick. I did a video on this one last year. So if you go to the document that's in RefTown that talks about video training series, there is a video on this where I went in a lot in-depth scenario. But basically, it's this: there is no hidden ball trick in high school baseball, because if the pitcher simulates receiving the ball and then gets on the dirt circle of the mound, if he doesn't have the baseball, it's a balk. If he is in the dirt circle and he's simulating that he has the baseball and he does not have the baseball in actuality, it is a balk. You could potentially have a hidden ball trick with the pitcher in the grass somewhere, and if the runner really isn't paying attention, that could be legal. But I wouldn't necessarily consider that a hidden ball trick, because typically it's with the pitcher that simulates having the baseball and he's on the mound. But great question. So make sure that if you're really wanting some more in-depth on that one, go back to that video and find it and rewatch that little section. Final thoughts for us, guys, because we're over time. Had a lot of content. Keep players and coaches in the dugout. We talked earlier in the year, there are 3 rules that were really, really, really bad to enforce. We took 2 of them away, so we're down to 1 rule that we don't like to enforce, and it's keeping players and coaches in the dugout. I had a conversation with a head coach this week, had a conversation with an athletic director this week as well, and they both were like, wow, your guys are keeping players in the dugout. Is that a new rule this year? I just wanted to jump up and down. Yes, we're doing it, but we've got to be consistent with it. Across the whole chapter, we've got to be consistent with it, okay? Continue using the game reports in RefTown. That's just a really great way of getting information to me. They're going to me right now, and I'm able to look through them, make contact. That's what I used content for this presentation with this week. Keep using that. That's a really great tool for us. So thank you for several of you that are doing that. And then lastly, call us if you have any questions. We are very approachable. We like to help you. And no question is too dumb or too simple to ask. We were certainly ready to help you. So happy umpiring, guys. Keep working those games. Hopefully the rain tomorrow will not rain out the games on Friday, because we got a lot of them. But here we go. District play is rolling along. Happy umpiring. Do your best and contact us if you have any questions. Have a great week, fellas.